Okay. I saw you busy working on your computer, so it's, okay. Can we, Mary Beth and Dia. So, so the, thank you. So the motion is to approve the minutes from our annual meeting in 2023. Those who vote to approve, yay, please raise your hand. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Is there any debate? I would ask if anybody's read the 2023 minutes, but I'm afraid the answer I would get. So now I can go for the motion, right? So can we have a vote to approve, a yay, for approving the 2023 minutes? And Ashley, do you want to help do the same thing when we split the room? I'll do the side.
Maybe you do nays. Why don't you do nays? Or you can say by unanimous consent.
Could I say by unanimous consent? Visually? Dissent? Yes. Okay. Is there anyone who would dissent, vote no on approving the 2023 minutes? No. So I think it passes unanimously. And that was the easy one. Okay. So I have just a short review of the past year that I would like to go through because I think it just helps set up what we're going to be voting on next. So you remember last year we took a leap of faith by supporting our staff with an overdue cost of living adjustment and fully funding our programs by drawing slightly over $36,000 dollars from our cash reserves. The result has been a healthy and growing congregation highlighted by a record gain of 21 new adult and 5 youth members over the past year, which is truly outstanding for any congregation, but particularly for Unitarian Universalists in this past year. So what did members new and old witness over the past year to give us confidence for the future of our congregation? So here are a few highlights. We created a COVID policy that gave us the flexibility to respond to local infection rates and hold most of our services in person while continuing our online broadcasts. Our Social Justice Jubilee gathered 30 members to re-energize our social justice work on issues such as reproductive rights, the environment, democracy, dismantling oppression, and caring for the neediest. Over 20 people joined the common read on the book On Repentance and Repair, which really helped bolster the meaning and purpose of our social justice circles. The Ministry of Welcoming and Membership, in collaboration with LEA, developed practices that made new members or new visitors feel welcome and encourage their future engagement. We held a Shingle Mingle fundraiser that helped pay down a significant portion of the re-siding of our meeting house, the loan for that, which enabled us to fit our loan payments into our operating budget for the coming year. Our RE program, led by Andrew and JC, attracted many new families with dozens of young ones. We sponsored small groups, book groups, concerts, and many more to help make connections and build community. And we also demonstrate our commitment to providing for justice and compassion for those in need, in helping the Trust Fund for All Children support the Foyer Angelique Orphanage in Haiti. Our staff and our volunteers stepped up to enable Reverend Rachel Hayes to take a well-deserved sabbatical, and our worship collaborative, as was exhibited today, Robin, Allison, and team, and Andrew really helped provide enriching and thought-provoking services throughout the year, but particularly during the sabbatical. And we held an auction which raised over $6,500 and created a formula for successful fundraising efforts for next year. So that's all on top of the fact that we're truly are blessed with a exceptional staff who bring powerful sermons, beautiful music, progressive religious education, and effective communication and management to our congregation. So this year we hope that the congregation takes a smaller leap of faith in drawing from reserves to provide the salary adjustments that meet the UUA fair compensation guidelines and fully fund our programs. I have faith that the growing membership will enable us to deliver future balanced budgets without touching our reserves, and our future is bright given our members' dedication and the impact we have on our part of the world. So, the next point of business is to vote on our slate of nominees for the board and the Leadership Development Committee, which are on the screen. So for the Board of Trustees, myself, I'm continuing as co-president. Linda Callahan, who was an at-large member, has decided to move up to be my co-president, or I should say our co-president. Ashley is continuing for another year as clerk, and Treasurer Eric Murphy has continued. Actually, he's extending his service for another 2-year term. Thank you. At-large members, Sue Kelly is continuing, and we're very appreciative to have Kate Dahlstead and Nancy Hunter join our board as at-large members for the coming years. The Leadership Development Committee, Maura Whalen, whose birthday was yesterday, is joining Lauren Croce and Louise Grossline for next year. So they did a great job in helping us with the slate this year, and look forward to their contribution for next year. So is there any discussion or questions on this slate? Hillary?
I would like to be able to see these people. I don't know all of them.
Actually, so the request is for those of you who are on the slate to come to the front and introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ashley Carter. I always end up being secretary in like every single group I am in because I am very organized and I am like very annoying. So vote for me. I just got full professor over at Amherst College in the physics department. I know, yay me. I don't know. So I served over committees there. I'm very fond of, or not fond. I understand Robert's rules, so that's good. I don't know, I have 2 young children, Jack and Clara, who you might see roaming around. They're not my children if they were doing anything bad, but otherwise they're my children. Okay, I think that's it.
Hi, I'm Kate Dahlstead. I've been a member here for about 11 years, I think. But I was born and raised Unitarian Universalist. I'm sorry, I'm sucking on a candy. I was raised in Schenectady, New York. And being a Unitarian Universalist has been, I would say, a major part of my identity my whole life. I'm a retired, semi-retired psychotherapist. I do still have a practice, if anybody would like to refer. But I'm at a time in my life where I really feel like I want to dive into some of the things that I haven't had time to do earlier in my life. And so when this opportunity came up, it was kind of spontaneous. I wasn't expecting it, and I immediately felt a little bit of a tingle of, oh, wouldn't that be nice? But I wanted to be sure, and I was given a couple of days to think about it. But I didn't really have to think about it for very long. The decision, I think, was made immediately. So thank you so much. Anyway, that's who I am, and I would really like to have an opportunity to be in a leadership position because I have a lot of ideas and a whole history of being a Unitarian Universalist to, behind my thinking in everything we would do. Thanks.
We'll fight for this. I'm Nancy Hunter, fairly new to this congregation and to the area, but not new to UU. I've spent a lot of time in the RE program, including many nights on fellowship floors, but have studiously avoided board work because I was working and thought I couldn't do that work. But now that I am retired, I felt like I had more time, so it's a new way to grow. And I have felt warmly welcomed by the people here. A shout out to the Wednesday morning breakfast crew who have really made me feel at home. And I am looking forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.
I'm Eric Murphy. We could have done a duet and talked at the same time. Yeah, so we've been involved, oh God, I think it's been probably 20 years. And when we lived in Shutesbury, and we were selling our house, we actually sold it to the former UU minister, Allison Wohler. And when we were starting to look for a place, call like, a kind of a, especially for our daughter, Jana, who was so young at the time, a place to go, we were kind of like, let's check out the UU where Allison actually preaches. And when we came, we actually loved it. It's so in line with our values. And for myself, having grown up going to church and stuff like that, there was kind of a little bit of resistance. It's like church or whatever, but it's actually not church services or whatever we want to call it. And so it's been wonderful. Like, our daughter has had great experience going through the, the OWL program and the different.
Could you give us a little bit of background on your financial management experience?
Yeah, I work I'm actually a CPA by training and background, and I'm self-employed. I mainly do kind of tax kind of work, but have a lot of background doing budgeting and that kind of thing too. So, I've been on the finance committee here for a number, at least a few years, and had transitioned to the board a couple of years ago. So, anyway, thanks.
Everybody knows who Jeff is, and now everybody's going to know who I am. Come on over, Maura. I am the person who brought you all these people, because I started in 22. But anyways, this is the LDC. My very dear friend, Louise, who's joined last year, and we've invited Maura to be our complement. And they're probably not going to do it, but we are all in the choir, and I'd like to do a perfect chord, but they probably won't. So we are the LDC. There we go. I'm here 30 years. You've been here quite a while, too.
About 10 years, yep.
Yeah, and you were here as long as I have or longer, right?
Oh, I've been here for, I've been here for a long time. All I want to say is get ready to say yes, 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 when we call you and talk to you, because we need as many people as we can get in leadership. It really helps. It helps you, it helps the congregation, so get ready to say yes.
That's everyone. A round of applause. One quick note is the first time, on my background, the first time I was ever here, I think was in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, because I was out front talking to Louise and Ron Grossline, and I said, first I came to Amherst for a square dance or a contra dance, and I looked up at the front door, what used to be the front door, and I was like, that was here. So, anyway. So, any questions about our... Can I have a second? Carol and Caven, where'd the second come from? Allison? And Hillary. Hillary wants to be on. And thank you, by the way, for the suggestion to have a briefing. Louise? Oh, yes. No, Tennessee. So Linda is in Tennessee. I think last week she mentioned she was going to her 50th high school reunion. Mine's coming right up, so, you know. And Sue Kelly is not here as well, but they are certainly both here in spirit. So I heard a motion. And it's been seconded. So could we have a vote all that approve first and just see, so if it's a ton of hands, now I'm going to say, okay, lower those hands. And anyone who would vote no on this slate of candidates, please raise your hand. Ah, I think that is unanimous. We have a unanimous. Oh. We did the dissensions. Oh, are there any abstentions? Did I hear a yes or no? I just, okay. Is John recording the people who are voting online? 5 yeses online. Okay. So next, we talked about who the new board is. So we'd like to recognize the 2 people who were leaving the board. So, and the first of that is Dia Pavel. And so I'd like to thank you for your wisdom, compassion, and experience that you shared with us in making some tough decisions. Now, you told me earlier in the service that you couldn't take a flower home because you're going to, well, unfortunately, we have more for you. And also leaving is Mr. Gerber. You're supposed to come down here because I'm busy. Yeah. I know John signed up for tech duty because he didn't want to be up here fiddling with the microphone. So anyway, thank you. It's a card from all of us on the board. A gift for your garden. Anyway, so on to, I think, the most fun thing that we have to talk about today, which is the budget. So if you could put the first slide of the budget up, and Eric, if you could help hit some high points.
All right, some high points. So for pledge income, it was pretty much in line with what we raised for this fiscal year 24, about $5,000 higher, which was great. Other contributions, that represents, just to clarify what that is, that represents both our plate income that gets allocated to us, the 50% share of the contributions made, as well as non-pledge gifts that sometimes come in throughout the year. And usually, we can't guarantee they're coming in, but there's a pattern of that happening. And in fiscal year 24, for instance, the estate of Felice Barber made a donation of $7,000. Rental income, that's raised up a little bit based on current tenants for long-term rentals and what short-term rentals have typically been. We have had an extremely good year for rentals in this current fiscal year. And we didn't stretch the budget that far because some of those renters were temporary situations. And so the number's a little bit aspirational in terms of we don't actually have those tenants signed up, but the likelihood is that other situations will come along and people will rent, and the number budgeted is completely doable. Fundraising represents you know, our fundraising, and that's typically going to be a spring auction. And then for this next coming fiscal year, we're considering doing something in the fall winter timeframe. Income from SREX, that program has kind of wound down, so we can only expect like maybe a few $100s of kind of residual monies coming in from that. Interest income is assuming that we can keep a certain amount in CDs and kind of base that off of, oh, go ahead. That's, I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's for having solar panels and the excess power we generate, and we get some income from that. So yeah, so interest income is basically, you know, assuming that we can keep a certain amount in CDs and earning, you know, roughly 4% or whatever in that realm. And income from endowment, that is income that we are allowed to take from our endowments, just the kind of the income piece, and it's based on kind of a rolling average of the quarterly, you know, quarterly balances over maybe the past previous 12 quarters, and a percent is applied to that, and I think we're doing I think it's like 4% we're doing now. We could do higher, but we don't do that. And then transfer from reserves is what we are expecting, based on our expenses, to have to transfer from reserves to meet kind of our aspirational, or what we're budgeting for expenses for fiscal year 25. And, so, oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Well, I think, so the question was, how are we expecting to increase fundraising by the amount we did? I think next year we're planning on holding 2 fundraisers, a fall and a spring. So this year we held a spring fundraiser. We did the signing loan fundraising in the fall, which just went to, not to the operating budget, but just to paying off the loan. The year before, we did what we called a winter appeal, and then we did a spring fundraiser. So we get back into the, you know, sort of the regimen of doing 2 fundraisers a year, plus more concerts and stuff like that. We think we can hit that number. Good question. Another question?
I assume we're still in the fiscal year, that the new one starts July 1st.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I wonder how we're doing in the actuals against the budget from last year. I mean, I know you have to project it a little bit. How are we doing?
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So 2 questions is how are we doing this current year relative to, I guess, even drawing on reserves? And the second question is, you know, where our reserve balances actually are and where do they stand? So for this fiscal year 24, you know, we had budgeted, I think it was like $36,000 as what we might need to draw from reserves to balance the budget for this fiscal year. Fortunately, because of, you know, the rental income situation did really well. So our rental income, I believe, was, you know, it's probably going to be like about $13,000 higher than we budgeted, which is great. Interest income is probably about, you know, 3,000-ish plus more than we budgeted. And yeah, and then, I mean, those are the primary drivers. And then certain of the expenses that we have budgeted for, I think will come under. For instance, like we probably over budgeted the number of hours for the sexton, who's actually coming in a lot lower than that, and that's a few $1,000s. You know, just small things like plowing. We budgeted like $1,900 for plowing, and that came in like at $1,000. So I would expect for fiscal year 24 that the actual usage from reserves will be probably under 10,000. And we'll know, like, once the year closes, probably more towards August, when everything's kind of in for this fiscal year in the books. Oh. Yes, yep. Yes. So for reserve balances, we've got about, let me see, about $84,000 in CDs. We've got $13,000 in a money market, and and then we have, like, we still have our endowment, which is invested with the UUCEF, and we also have some restricted funds that are also with the UUCEF, and the balance of the endowment's roughly about $180,000, and the balance in the restricted funds, I believe, is in the like $80,000 range. So, yeah, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Member of the Green Sanctuary Committee, I might get asked why this SRACS goes from 3,000 to 350, and I would not be able to answer that.
So I mean, when we put the panels in 2014, so there's like a schedule of payments you get as the incentive, and it goes on a declining basis. So this was a fairly significant drop off, but we'll probably get I think another year where we might get 100 or 150, and then it goes to zero. And I see Louise going, what? So just for everyone to hear, the answer on the SREX is that we were getting that 3,000 amount on an annual basis, and now we're pretty much done. Any other questions?
Just following up on that question earlier, it would be really helpful in the future to see the annual actuals or projection for end of year, because I've seen too many budgets where last year's budget looks great, but then it bears no resemblance to reality.
So just to reframe the question, it'd be great to see before we're voting on what the actuals are for the year, and for the current year. And I know that would be great, but I think one thing I'll just say in that behalf is that we really went through agonizing detail with Eric, with Leah, John, and I, the Finance Committee, in terms of going through to prepare for the next year's budget to make sure we were not, because there were numbers that were things that are put in there that were not necessarily going to be used, and so we really went through in detail to make sure that the next year's budget was reflecting reality. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. And do you want to?
Yeah, and certain expenses are just they're just hard to pin down, like for say professional expenses, if they're not maybe submitted till maybe towards the end of the year, those, so we have pretty good budgeted amount based on contracts for what those professional expenses might be, and oftentimes they don't get used, or get used in a much lower amount than budgeted, but we don't really know for sure because they're employees are entitled to use those professional expenses.
Okay. Do you want to follow up and then?
Oh, yeah.
This is actually a secretarial issue that we have to get the budget to you, but we do it in February, so it's very difficult to know. Now you're thinking, oh, it's June, don't we know the end is July? But in February it's very difficult. So a lot of the time what we do is we look at the year previous, the 2022, 2023, and we match those. And so that's what the board is looking at and everything. But yeah, so that's why. So even next year, we probably wouldn't be able to get you those numbers, but we would be able to get you the numbers from the year previous.
Thank you. And Pat? So the proposal, if I get, and correct me if I didn't get this right, but is to publish the 2023 actuals as well as the 2024 budget in advance of thinking about the next year's budget. Yeah, so that would be for this, yeah. Do you want to restate what?
Yeah, so you're suggesting like either posting the actuals, like either, you know, just sending it out maybe as a link to like it on the website or something. So, you know, people have access in looking at it, and then maybe including it, at least a summary of the actuals as part of like, you know, some slides or materials that we are using to prepare the budget. Oh, including it in the annual report, okay. So it's not in the annual report,
Not the 2023.
okay.
You got it? I thought you said I got it, so I.
I got it. I hear what you're saying, and I'll work with finance committee, we'll see what we do next year. Cool idea.
That was Leah saying she's got it. Any other, we haven't shown expenses yet. Any other questions while we're talking about where we're showing revenue? Okay, let's show, oh, Carolyn?
So I think it's fabulous that we've brought in so many new members. I'm interested to know how many members we may have lost, because it concerns me to bring in so many new members and still not be able to fulfill the balanced budget.
I don't know the number. So the question is, how many members have we lost as we brought in 25 adult and youth members? And Leah, sure. Leah does the membership report on a monthly basis, so.
Hi, all. I'm Leah, much to your surprise. Okay, so we do have membership reports available on a fairly regular, if there's no change month to month, I don't make one. But I'm pulling up the reports we have, and I can tell you how we started the year, how we ended the year. One of the things, though, I'll say as a caveat is that prior to me, or just even prior to the past few years where we've really created systems around this, we never really moved people off membership. We never want to move people off membership, but if they've not shown up for 3 years, you know, now we have a way to measure. It was actually part of the bylaw change last year. Some of you might remember that. So we actually now have kind of a policy that allows us to reach out and say, hey, and it's very gentle, and we don't ever push anyone off, ever, if they're like, yeah, it's just been a busy few years, whatever. So we just want to get a number that's a little bit closer to reality in our reporting. So that being said, when I got here, we didn't actually have a member number. I didn't know who was a member. I didn't know who wasn't a member. I went through the book. Anyway, so this has been a long process. It's like I can actually stand before you and tell you the number of members that we have. And it's not a small feat to be able to do so. With that in mind, let me quickly pull up on the drive, and I will just tell you how we started the year and how we have ended the year. And that also, I will say, we're about to enter the phase of writing a few letters to folks that we haven't seen for a few years to say, hey, we noticed we haven't seen you, you haven't participated or pledged, or just, how are you? Are you here with us, kind of thing. So that will be happening this summer. This is part of the process now. Okay, so starting 2023, September, our official membership was 128. Ending the year, my last report, again, this is following 21 members. Our official membership is 142. there's always notes as I write my official membership, because I am looking at those who likely aren't with us anymore. Sorry, this is long-winded, but there are likely 9 households representing 11 members who are likely lapsed. We won't know for sure until we reach out to them and have conversations. So that's 142 minus roughly 11. So we're more or less back to that 128 that we started. As much as we're delighted for all the new members, there is attrition that happens along the way as well. Any questions from me about that? And I'm also happy to share new member reports. A lot of people get them, the whole congregation doesn't, but if anyone wants to know. Pete Rogers.
Yeah, is the drop in the UUA dues because of our change in membership?
No. Yeah. I can't speak to that exactly, but we no longer tie our membership count to, that's not how the UUA recommended donation is. It's not tied to membership, it's actually tied to budget. So it's our income. I don't remember the fine point on that, but it's not membership anymore as the way it used to be. Yeah, so they changed that, yeah. Anybody else? I hope that answers
Thank you.
Carolyn's question. Did that answer your? More or less. You still have concerns, and I get it. We all do. Yeah. Okay.
And you just found out why we have Leah, and thank you for coming today because you weren't necessarily going to be here. The one other thing I'll just note on that is that the bulk of the revenue from pledging does come from longstanding members. So as much as we bring in new members, it does take time before they get to the point where they'll actually contribute at the rate that those of us who've been here for a while contribute. Now let's hit expenses.
Okay, so expenses, let me see. So the main items, say for the music program, there's been some small adjustments. Mainly, I think in the previous fiscal year budget, there was a couple of extra items. I think we had a budget for a djembe or, yep. Yeah, yep. And for the services line, so when Allison is not in the pulpit,
Rachel.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rachel. I still had Allison on my mind.
When Rachel's not in and Allison's not in and Robin's not in,
yes,
we may need to get someone from the outside.
Yes. So, and anyway, so we budgeted basically 5 speakers, and then there's a budget in there for some other costs associated with Sunday services. Let me see, religious education, I think there's been, I think we're increase in budget for, I think, food for the kids and some supplies, and that's offset by childcare expenses that we're just not using. Program expenses is
Pretty much even.
pretty much even. There is some budget lines that just never get used for some committees, and they don't want them, and we had small amounts budgeted for them, so we just took those out. And then some other, and then there's a little bit of money coming from the restricted funds for some of those costs. Meeting house expenses, came in roughly the same, even though within that number, there are moving numbers, like electricity is higher, and then certain other things, like maybe snow plowing is lower, just kind of came in the same range. Donation and dues is,
That's the UUA number.
yeah, that's our UUA membership, and that is, we've got that at $8,000 is what we're budgeting for UUA dues, and that's down from like 11,000 or so dollars. Yes.
Actually, can he finish just hitting the high points and then we'll do questions? Thank you.
Okay. Financial expenses is pretty much our the loan payments, and then certain other costs. Staff compensation is the main one that we have, and that we adjusted so everyone's pretty much in line with the UUA guidelines for fair compensation. And the offset for that, why it's actually going down a little bit, is in the fiscal year 24 budget, we had money budgeted for sabbatical wages for while Rachel's been away, as well as a reduction in the number of hours for the sexton position. And so that lowered that down. So it ended up being a little bit of a reduction in overall compensation.
But while we're on that line, the one thing that we did do is we went through with the UUA's fair compensation guidelines, and we made sure that everyone was paid appropriate for a church our size in our location, that they were paid for the role that they were playing, that they're paid appropriately. So almost everybody, with the exception of Reverend Rachel, got an adjustment, and in most cases they're up. In some cases the hours might be down, but the wage rate is up. So I just think that's, even though that's like the first bullet item, is we're meeting the fair compensation guidelines, and when you see the number going down, what Eric just said is why you're seeing it going down, because actually from a staff compensation perspective, we're doing the right thing by the people who work for us so hard.
Yep, and that's pretty much it. So any questions? Pete
And Sophie are both
Sophie.
together. Okay, Sophie.
Sophie.
Yeah, I just have a question. I know we're paying for health insurance for the minister. Are there any other employees that we have who are eligible for health insurance? Repeat the question, please.
Okay, are any of the other employees other than the minister eligible for health insurance?
And I don't believe so. I think based on like hours worked, they don't meet the minimum amount of hours for the health insurance plan.
What is the minimum number of hours worked to be eligible?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Isn't it 32 hours a week? It's 32, I believe, although this is off the top of my head, 32 hours per week, and so no one other than Reverend Rachel hits that.
32 hours is a pretty high number of hours to be eligible for health insurance. Generally, in corporations, that's a pretty high number. But that's getting lost in the trees, perhaps. So.
Mhm.
So Google knows the answer to this. Google knows so many things. UUA guidelines are actually for anyone who meets the number of hours threshold per year, which is 750 hours or 15 hours per week or more.
It was if 15 hours a week or more was the UUA directions. To be eligible. So, I guess we're currently not doing that. We're not doing that right now. Pete said he'd be glad to work on something that helps change that. Of course, the big thing would be money, but thank you. Sophie, did you have a separate question?
Yeah, just for the community breakfast. So I see that there's 500. Does that include ServSafe and equipment that we might need, or I don't know what that costs?
Yes. Yep.
So the
There's a
question
budget.
is
I think for.
Just to repeat the question, so the community breakfast is the roughly $500 included in our line item, correct?
Right. So I don't know how much ServSafe is going to cost, and we need some equipment, so it might be a little more.
Yeah, I think we've got like $500 budgeted for like the ServSafe line item. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the things we did is, and John really led this, was go through all of the items for which we have a restricted fund and seeing if the money in the restricted fund could be applied to operating costs. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. But we did try to go with a fine-tooth comb and ask all the committee chairs for input on that. Yes, question?
Does the budget for the meeting house and grounds include money set aside for emergencies, like a purchasing or something like that?
So the question is, does the money in meeting house and grounds include emergencies, like pipes bursting, furnaces going under? Tom, the head of our meetings house committee.
Chair of Meeting House Committee. We have a $5,000 line item for maintenance, which is based on past experience and should cover emergencies.
And we do have a restricted fund that applies to meeting house expenses? And we do have a restricted fund as well, in addition. And so one of the things for next year in thinking about raising money is how we build up some of these restricted funds. Like I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago, Brenda made an appeal to build up the music funds. So we'll continue to do that next year.
Yeah, and we do put in like $2,000 we budget to actually put into the capital reserve, and then that gets transferred from our operating account to the UUCEF restricted fund for that.
For capital reserves, there are the reserves. So that's not in the operating budget. And we will be doing a reserve study this year, or next year.
Any other questions on expenses? Yes, Lynn. It's clean here, and the chairs are set up, and so one of the things that, it ties to our rental income is anytime we have a renter who has a particular setup that they need, that they're not going to do themselves, then the sexton helps with that. So they're very handy. I guess I should have restated the question. What does the sexton do? That was the answer. Okay.
There seems to be a change in religious education staffing. I wonder
Yeah.
if you could just tell us, Andrew's salary is dropping quite a bit, but then there's the preschool educator and preschool helper that weren't previously. Can somebody bring us up to speed?
Sure. So Andrew actually, earlier this year, I can't remember how far back, March timeframe, had expressed that he wanted to reduce hours because he was looking for another, which he got, another full-time position. So he's still able to do 5 hours on Sundays and 5 hours in preparation, but there were a lot of administrative tasks and stuff like that. So we worked with JC Armetti to actually increase her hours so that she is basically serving as a RE manager, not just a, whatever, not K through 6, but preschool teacher. And and we're actually rewriting JC's job description to reflect that. And then JC and Andrew and I we have another meeting to kind of just like work through the details of that. But that's the reason. Any further questions on expenses? So I'm going to wait to ask for a vote until Ashley comes back. So yeah, could I receive a motion to vote on the FY25 budget? Mary Beth again with a motion, and Candy second. Thank you. You were late, but thank you for trying. So all who, let's just wait to see what, childcare, okay. Ashley, are you leaving too, or are you sticking around? Yeah. So we have a motion to approve the FY25 budget. Could I get a vote of yay? We're approving. We have to offer debate. Is there any, okay, hands down. Would anybody like to debate any of the issues, other than asking a question, just raise concerns, post other, Louise?
This is not a concern, this is congratulations. I was on the board a year ago, and we tried to get up to the new fair share compensation guidelines for the UUA. It was unbelievable. It looked unachievable. So the fact that you're now there, even though we did the steps, the fact that we're now there with wages is huge.
So, for those online, that was a congratulations for getting on the fair. Like, John deserves a ton of credit for that, so. Any other points of debate? Pete? Okay. It wasn't a question. It was I guess, a thank you. No, understanding how hard it has been to get up to the UUA fair compensation guidelines and things that have changed every year. It was a congratulations that we did it. Okay, I think we're prepared. Now, do I need to ask for a motion again? Okay. Let's have a vote. Raise hands for all who are in favor of passing the budget for 2025. Should we ask for the nay votes and just...
Okay, yeah,
19. So 19 times 7 plus 5.
Plus another 2.
Plus 2. Could I have a, please raise your hand for any votes no or nay. Please raise your hand if, and was there any online for a no? Any abstentions? It's very silent. So the motion would pass by 26 plus 27 is 53 to 0. Thank you very much. So just some quick closing words from Linda Callahan, who's, who could not be with us today. So she said, while I'm connecting with my roots in Tennessee, I'll also be connecting with my branches, you, here in Massachusetts. In other words, I'll be thinking of you at the annual meeting. I look forward to working with the congregation as co-president in the coming year as we all contribute to our unique ways to accomplish as much good as we can together. So do I hear... What? Oh, Candy wants to make an announcement? Late-breaking event.
Well, some of you might remember that last year we had a celebration in my garden. This year we'd like to do it again to celebrate the culmination of our meeting year. On the 23rd from 11 to 1, bring a picnic, perhaps dessert to share. We have a lot of chairs, but you might want to bring a few. And I'm hoping our new treehouse is finished for the children and any adults who wish to attempt. I did ask my husband why he put a spiral staircase up to it, and he said, well, that's so you can come up. So that'll be kind of fun. Mm-hmm. 11
Yeah.
to 1? And what's the auction item? I want-
This is in 2 Sundays from today. So next Sunday is our final worship service here in the sanctuary. The following Sunday is General Assembly. If you want to be able to attend that streaming service, it's only available streaming and it's at 1 Eastern. So for folks who would like to attend, you should just plan on leaving a bit early from Candy's Garden. And I was just here for moral support since Candy just told me this morning that I literally asked her yesterday and she said yes today. So it's an amazing invitation. If you haven't been to Candy's Garden, know that this is it's a gift of an invitation. It is resplendent. There are no words. I hope you all can be there. And Jet, bring your lunch, bring a chair if you can, and bring something to share for a sweet. Kat has a question. Everybody will be getting lots of emails. It's what I do.
It's 1 mile, straight up East Pleasant, same side of the road. Big white picket fence.
Where you see cars.
Corner of Shearman
Stop.
and,
Yeah. When you see cars parked on the side of the road, that's it.
oh yeah?
Well, if everyone's there,
Oh, we're not gonna park on the side of East Pleasant. That's
No.
not okay. But we can park in the Renaissance Center parking lot or on Shearman Lane.
will we have people guiding traffic as we did last year? So don't run over Pete. He'll be waving you to someplace to park.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Candy. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn our meeting? Thank you, Larry. Larry says, and I think Hillary gave it a second. We had lots of seconds. So let's adjourn, and thank you very much for attending today.